right, we are back. And as it said, here we go. I am so excited on this Sunday night. I get to welcome in one of my favorite people. I get to see her virtually here and then in a week in New York. And I cannot say enough how excited I am to hear some of the things that she's doing at NiceGate, but even more the adventure and pun intended, we're going to get into it, that she is on and all the work she's bringing to this field. And I've had an opportunity to know her for a long period of time, but NiceGate actually was the first place we met 2 years ago in person. So it's always a special place. So welcome in. I'd love for you to introduce yourself and all that you do, because no matter what I do, I cannot do it justice. It is incredibly impressive, and that the work you do is really impactful. So take it away.
I
Tell
appreciate
us
you.
who you are, the work you're doing. I can't wait to hear more.
Hello, everyone. I am Yaritza Villalba. I am the CEO and founder of McKinsey's Adventures. We are a global consulting company working with schools around the world on curriculum development, coding and STEM, on parent academies. You name it, we're doing it as long as it's impacting students. As Matt mentioned, we've known each other for so long. And one of those reasons was because Matt published some of my children's books, which is part of the Mackenzie's Adventure series. And so hopefully today we'll be able to share some of the adventures that not only have I been on with Matt, but some I have cooking for 2025.
All right, and for next week at NiceGate, and as she mentioned, mentioned down below is her website. I'll just keep it going through the whole episode if you are watching it. If you are listening to it, it is www.mackenziesadventures.com. Make sure to check that out. So many amazing resources. So before we dive into all the global work you're doing, for all of those attending next week at NiceGate, I know you're going to be there Monday and Tuesday. You're going to be part of the playgrounds. You're going to be part of the book signing. So for those heading out to Turning Stone, what are some of the things that you'll be doing there?
Hey, so yes, I'll be sharing my latest children's book. It is a graphic novel called Mackenzie and the Secret Library of Banned Books. One of my playground sessions actually takes the readers through the importance of banned books and amplifying the diverse voices and experiences of people who have had their experiences banned in across the United States. And the second is a stage presentation where we're actually going to do some activities. So those
All
of you
right.
to sketch and be a part of kind of like creating your own graphic novel scene, that's exactly what we'll be doing live using Pear Deck.
That is awesome, and I know. So the first one will be on a Monday, and that'll be at 12 o'clock at the playground in the Mohawk Room. And for me, this is the first year that I've ever done a playground.
Ooh.
So for those who have not experienced that, 'cause I know you do a lot of presentations. You were part of the keynote last year. What's the difference between a playground and what are you going to bring? I don't mean physically bring. Like, what is some of the content that you're going to bring to the people coming to see you?
So I always say a playground is like a grocery store, right?
Oh, I like that.
You have so many different options of how you're going to obtain some knowledge, whether if it's literally through some quick activities. Sometimes you may see some slideshows. I know I've seen folks print out large things on boards and literally have some form of interactions. So I'll say playgrounds are kind of like your way to not only learn something new, but it helps you to apply it in the classroom because you'll see the innovative strategies that all the presenters are using to get this information to you in a way where you can consume it and not feel overwhelmed. So if you're one of those people where you feel overwhelmed sometimes at conferences because there's so many different offerings, I would say playgrounds are the place to be because it allows you to learn on your own time. You're able to go from station to station, and then as the playground is going on, you'll have like a live person on a stage who is doing another presentation where you can then interact directly with the presenter as well.
Yeah, no, and I'm really looking forward to it again this year. I'm doing that one for the first time. I've never done it. I like to definitely challenge myself. And the first time I saw it was at Philadelphia for ISSE when you were doing, I
Mhm.
think the New York team did a whole playground. I was like, wow, I can go check this out. I can
Yeah.
check this out, and you just walk around, and in a buffet is a great to talk about that. And I think having that information is critical. So I know I had the great honor and privilege to speak with you last year, part of the keynote and it's the Ignite presentation. And for those who are coming this year, hold up that book again, because on Tuesday, you have your book signing, correct?
Yes, Tuesday is the book signing at 10 a.m. Y'all, I am looking forward to it because I believe book signings are just an amazing opportunity for me to have one-on-one discussions with people. Like, my way of signing books is I don't write the same message in every book. I usually
Mhm.
ask questions like, all right, so what do you do and who inspired you? And that leaves me to not only learn something from you, but to write a message that's of importance and
Yeah, and
relatable.
yeah, and that's really the point of this, and that's why I really like Nicegate as well, because it's a smaller, not small, but not like ISTE, and you can have conversations with authors. You can have discussions. You can ask what motivated you to write that book, and I think that's the piece of this. So we are going to dive into books really quick. Besides the playground you're doing, you have multiple other books, and it just is amazing to me if you go to the website that's scrolling below to see all these amazing works that you have. And I've learned a ton just from one, reading them and then reading them to students through that. So before we dive into anything else, tell us about your collection. This is amazing.
So, if you're now tuning in and this is your first time meeting me or meeting me, Mackenzie is my daughter. From the time she was born, I've been writing books, and all the books are literally taking her on a journey. And so, I believe that as parents, it is our job to ensure that our students have knowledge about their culture. And so that as they're growing up and they have questions, it's easier for them to know who they are and where they come from. And for me, it's really important for my daughter to know that she's an Afro Latina, that she comes from a family that's predominantly women, but we are strong. But we migrated from Panama. We're strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
We migrated from Panama, which is why my first language is Spanish. But even deeper than that, my great grandmother was taken from Africa, and she was then, put in or forced to be in Great Britain before she migrated to Panama. So having given my daughter the opportunity to learn about herself and through her heritage through storytelling. Storytelling is one of those ways where I feel like if a student is struggling, and I'm not saying that my daughter is struggling, she's still a baby, but if a student is struggling with obtaining knowledge or any kind of information, once you allow them to tell it in a story, then you'll see the creativity, you'll see the innovation, you'll see the imagination. And that's what led me to publish children's books with Matt, is because when you write them for children, you can be as creative as you want to be. If I could have written a book about unicorns, and honestly, I would have had so much fun. But my first book was Mackenzie's Time Machine. And honestly, it is a story where I'm sharing African Americans and people of color who have made a difference in the world. And the idea is that I want to have this message of you can be whoever it is that you want to be. For years and for centuries, women have had to fight for the right to be something other than a housewife. And even now in 2024, we are still fighting for our rights, right? And so that is a book where I feel like when a child holds it, they have so many different options on the pages as to seeing themselves become doctors and politicians, poets and mathematicians. But even the words that are not on the page, they can use their imagination and say, hey, I want to be that. And so these stories are giving students the opportunity to connect with the world around them, but also with their culture.
Yeah, and I think, I'll speak on the other side of it. And, if you are listening to this, which and haven't seen me in person, I am a 53-year-old white male from Massachusetts.
Mhm.
And when I got this book, I was like, I don't know some of these individuals. And I have been a principal for 10 years before I worked with the material. Then I was an administrator. Like, I have to learn who these individuals are. And then through reading it to, I'm currently in a district of 18 elementary schools, and I try to share this work, and we have a very diverse population, so I have to learn it myself. And I think for leaders out there as well, it's not just put this book in the hands of a second grader so that they can learn all the things they can be. That's incredibly empowering, which we
Yeah.
have to do as well. but we, as the leaders of young men and women, we have to do the same. And for me, all the work that you have done has also helped me and other leaders to take that on.
I appreciate that. And I remember, Matt, when we were trying to figure out what grade level the book was for. And we were like, okay, elementary school. And what was so
Mhm.
surprising was once we published the book, there were high school teachers and even higher ed teachers that have used my book and who have shared, like, hey, I've used this for writing classes, or even I've used it so that students can do research projects on the folks
Sure.
mentioned in the book. So there's so many endless possibilities with these books. Although they're children's books, the idea is that it's opening up our students' minds to endless possibilities.
Yeah, so if that's something you're interested in, make sure to check that out at NiceGate. And before we get into the book that you have about the libraries and banned books, you have another book, both in English and Spanish,
Mhm.
about your late grandma. And again, this was something else I learned a ton about culture and food and history. So share about Mackenzie's Buzuela.
That book still makes me tear up inside.
I'm sure that was I wasn't even connected. I don't know your grandma, and I was like, oh, this is heavy. Like we got to get this right.
Yeah. So the book is Mackenzie's Bisabuela. Bisabuela means great
Bisabuela.
grandmother, which is my grandmother's, my daughter's great grandmother, Bisabuela. And at one point, my grandmother got really sick. And I had to think about the fact that she is the matriarch of our family. And there's a lot of stories that have been untold, right? And so there's a lot of stories that we don't know. And the first thing that came to my mind was, wow, a lot of the experiences that I had with us sitting around the table and hearing stories from the adults, my daughter will not be able to experience that. She's not going to be able to experience the traditions on which I grew up on. And
Mhm.
so I figured, what best way to kind of like pay homage to my grandmother for being the one responsible for me actually migrating to the United States, but also everything else that she taught us. And I said, why not write a book about it, right? Kind of like a love letter to my grandmother. And so I interviewed all of my aunts and my mom and other family members. And I was just kept asking them, like, what are some things that I need to know about my grandmother? And we turned that into a story. And what was so cool was Jen Lieben, who was
Mhm.
the illustrator for the book, she captured every single scene. And folks don't know, but we use real pictures from my
Oh,
family
wow, that's amazing.
to create the illustrations of the book.
Wow. What was your grandma's name?
Beverly, but they called her
Okay.
Beve.
Beva?
Beve, yeah, Beve.
Beve.
Yeah,
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, let's get back to the newest book because I got to be honest with you, and obviously Mackenzie's 3, I think.
yeah.
So we've been on this adventure. Well, you've been on motherhood adventure for 3 years and been part of the content for 3 years. And she quickly went from like a 6-year-old to a teenager. And the first time I saw the illustrations, because it is a graphic novel, I was like, oh my gosh, Mackenzie's a teenager. I don't know how to handle this. And I'm like, I don't even know her, but I feel like I know her from just having her on a Zoom or seeing it in pictures. I was like, I don't even know what to do with this. I'm looking at a teenage Mackenzie. So
Yeah.
where did this graphic novel idea come in?
So Goldie Muhammad once said that our curriculum has to be bold, it has to be unapologetic, and it has to align with changing times. And for all of you listening, I know you recall a time, and it's still happening, where state legislatures began to ban books that they deem to be kind of like unfit to be in a classroom or schools. So anything dealing with sexism, well, anything dealing with sex, anything dealing with race, anything that empowered students to be individuals. They basically said, hey, this has no place
Wow.
in public education. And as a person who has done a lot of work on culturally responsive teaching, it's really important that students see themselves in everything that we teach. And if we take away things that help them to know more about themselves, especially when they have questions to things that we ourselves don't have the answers to, then we're basically saying that everyone should be treated the same, meaning everyone learns the same, everyone should be exposed to the same curriculum. And we know for a fact that that factory model does not work. It has not worked for centuries. And so with this book, I wanted to kind of like, once again, pay homage, but this time to all of the authors who have had books banned. And what I thought about was, what are some topics that are the most controversial topics? And how can I put it in the book so that a student who is reading this book, although they don't have access to that banned book, is able to still get the message? And so throughout this book, and I'll show you guys just like random pages because it's a graphic novel. But throughout this book, Mackenzie's experience in her first week of high school, which if you followed the series, you know that she was literally just in elementary school.
I know it.
She was just in elementary school, just like Matt said. But I needed to leap forward because as educators, we don't understand or really take into account that transition from middle school to high school and what students are facing. They are finding themselves or trying to. They have so many questions. And it's like, I just went middle school where I'm like short, and then I'm in high school and I have this growth spurt, but I don't know which group I belong to. And then you have the seniors sitting at one table. You have all these other students sitting at other tables in the lunch counter. Where am I going to sit? And so not only are our students dealing with that, but then they're also dealing with not having access to books. Yeah. And so with this, Mackenzie is going through her first week of school. She has this teacher who, from the first day, is just like pronouncing her name incorrect, right? Which is something that I dealt with in my real life as an adult, specifically a year ago. So one of the scenes, I kind of like changed it to the classroom scene, but this happened literally in I'm trying not to say the place, but at an event, and a woman just like deliberately said my name incorrect. And no matter how many times I tried to show her and tell her how to pronounce it, she was joking around and would say it however she wanted to say it. And then the conversation ended with her saying, well, your mom really didn't like you. She named you that.
Oh, that I can't even.
And when I got pissed, she was just like, I'm playing. And I was like, you don't know me to play like that.
Yeah.
And so that scene, I put it in the book, but in this way, I kind of like had the teacher mispronounce her name, but also this topic of AI and teachers around the world saying that AI is a form of cheating, when in fact it isn't. And so Mackenzie reflects on the fact that she used AI in middle school to help tutor herself because she had no one else to assist her. So throughout the book, you'll see pockets of strategies for teaching and how to be culturally responsive without me saying this is a culturally responsive strategy. So it shows you what different teachers are doing in the classroom and what might be positive and what may have a negative impact. And it's also a way for teachers to reflect on, who are you? Are you the music teacher that allows students to make connections between present day music and their past? Or are you that math teacher that believes that AI is cheating? You have to decide who you are and what changes you're willing to make to ensure that your students are actually having fun in your classroom and also fun in a way where they're learning.
Absolutely. So there's a lot that you are bringing next weekend to Nice Gate. So if you are heading there, I know you're only going to be there Monday and Tuesday. So if you are listening or watching, make sure to connect so that you get all of this learning. Head over to the book signing. If you are not able to make it or you're only there on Sunday, make sure to check out the website below. All of those things are happening. And before I let you go, because one of the great things I've always found at events is you make connections and then you build on them after. And one of the things that you are doing now is the Global EdTech Consulting Service. So if you look on here, it's mackenziesadventures@gmail.com or www.mackenziesadventures.com. So for those who are just learning about this, tell us a little bit about what you're doing after the events that you are going to be at next weekend.
Yes. So currently I'm working with schools throughout the United States and in different countries, and also organizations to build coding programs, so digital fluency programs in their schools, but also curriculum development for interdisciplinary learning or project-based learning. Even when I say that, it's like, you get tongue-tied, but
it's so important. Being in a school now, it is so important.
Y'all, what I'm going to say is I'm going to take my presenter hat off. I've been having so much fun because people assume that once you leave the classroom, there's a disconnect between you and students. What my company allows me to do is it allows me to put my foot back into the classroom, because people hire me for different things. With one district, I'm literally helping their coding teachers from pre-K to 5 on coding strategies. With some schools and some students, I'm actually working with coding strategies unplugged, right? So we don't even need devices. And so you get to see teachers do things like, while I'm teaching them algorithm, they're dancing because I'm showing them a step-by-step process.
Yep.
Another district has hired me to do administrative coaching. And so I'm taking the administrators through the journey of revisiting being a teacher. What does lesson planning look like? What does unit planning look like? How can you support your teachers by doing peer observations, but also you going in and now teaching that subject with your teachers, right? I have another district that is hiring me to work with their seniors on building college and career readiness. So helping them out with their LinkedIn pages, but also Microsoft industry certifications. And these are high school seniors, but they're ready for college, right? And then I have another district that really wants to increase their parent engagement. So we're doing what we call parent academies or parent universities, where we're teaching parents different skills, whether if it's understanding cybersecurity or even coding, thinking about passwords, but also AI and what that looks like in a classroom, and how can you use, AI to be more creative. So one of the academies coming up, I'm actually having parents work with Microsoft Designer, and they're going to create an image, a self-portrait using artificial intelligence. And so a lot of what we do is we go in and we meet the needs of the individual schools and districts. And as I mentioned, I am having fun because I know that I believe in the trickle down theory, right? That if I give those tools to admin or to the district leaders, then it is going to sprinkle down to the teachers and then eventually to the students and the families. If I gave it to the teachers, once again, it's going to be sprinkled down to the students and the families. And if I give it to the students, it is going to be sprinkled down to the families, because guess what? When our students feel empowered, they want to go home and share what they did in school.
Wonderful. So you have so much going on. Like I could spend 2 days listening to all that you do, but the good news for our participants next week, you do get 2 days to see and connect. And the reason I brought up the last kind of half of what we were talking about today is because the work that you connect with extends beyond NiceGate, extends beyond Turning Stone. So connect, make sure to approach, take pictures, whatever. I want to make sure the word gets out there because the work that you're doing is incredibly impactful.
Thank you, Matt.
Well, so thanks for taking the time. You weren't on the schedule. And I'm like, that can't happen. This is not going to work if you are not on the schedule. So we made it happen. And for those who are listening and watching, make sure to make that connection. Check out the website or connect in any digital way possible, because the work that she will bring to your district, your community, your club will be something incredibly impactful. So I get to see you in 1 week, and I look forward to it and hear all the great adventures that you are on.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Matt. And y'all, I'll see y'all next week. We're going to have some fun, so be ready.
All right, we'll see you. I'll make sure I'll hold you to it. See you in a week.
Bye, everyone.